Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the June 10th, 2025 meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Newcastle. The board has been in executive session, and I'd like to ask for a motion to open the work session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are going to start off with a discussion of cell coverage and possible cell towers. I know that a while back, we had talked about having Verizon here to a meeting in April. Something got in the way of that, they were unable to do it, and so we are still working with them and anticipate that they will at some point soon. And we wanted to update the public because we want to be absolutely transparent and follow through and let you know that we are still working very hard on this. And I just wanna thank everyone involved. I know that our town administrator has been very actively working with Verizon, and so I'll turn it over to Rob to give us an update on where we are.
Sure. And we have Sabrina joining us online tonight. She's gonna help out a little bit. So just to give kind of an update of where we are now, we get a lot of complaints unfortunately about cell service in the town and what can we do about it. So a couple years ago, I think it was in March of 2023, we finally completed the wireless master plan, and that's where the town partnered with Westchester County's consultant, and they did a pretty intensive study in outreach to residents here and study on coverage gaps and what people were interested in hearing, what people would be interested in accepting to improve their service. And Sabrina, maybe you can just refresh what that study was all about. I looked up and she was on the phone. So Sabrina, I'm not sure if you just heard, but I asked if you could just kind of rehash or refresh what we talked about during the wireless master plan study and kind of what came out of that.
Sure, so the wireless master plan study actually identified areas in town where we had very little service and also areas in town where we had too many people on one line, if you will. So there was lack of coverage in areas, but also lack of, or what we call congestion in other areas of town.
Okay, so we completed that study. It's been posted up on our website. It's available for any of the carriers to see. Anybody that's interested in coming into town and improving service here, that's available for them. So we started to look at what's happened over the last couple of years because we've had people say that they have had better service in the past, that nothing changed. Their carrier didn't change, their location didn't change, and yet they're not able to make a phone call like they used to. So we started to look into why that would be happening. As Sabrina mentioned, some of it is there's a lot more devices connected now than there ever has been in the past. I'm pretty sure if everybody's like me, there's probably 2 or 3 devices in my house for each person in the house that are connected, and I'm sure everybody here is like that as well. So there's a lot more users connecting to the same tower, and the bandwidth is being used up at a greater rate. You also have that over time, the trees aren't getting smaller, they're growing. So if you had a tower that would reach, that would spread, all of a sudden now the trees are getting taller, it's more difficult for the signal to reach, and then the topography of the town isn't great anyways, so you have these coverage gaps. And then what we talked to some of the carriers and what they've mentioned is that the changing technology, in the past at the lower bands, when you had like the 3G and the lower bands there, the reach of the coverage was much greater than it currently is. So you had while the service was slower and maybe not quite as reliable as the 5G, you had a larger coverage area. Now most of the carriers, they've discontinued the lower bands and they're only using 5G, but 5G, the signal reach isn't as great, so you have to have more towers to connect to, and we haven't added those and haven't had the opportunity to add those. So that's one of the reasons why you may have had service at one point in time where you were able to connect to a 3G or a 4G, and now we're on to 5G and you're not able to connect as easily anymore. So Over the last probably 12 months, we have been in contact with Verizon. They approached us and they had identified a couple sites within town that they thought, they're town-owned sites that they might be able to put a cell tower and improve service and you know, a couple of things that went into that study, they were looking for property that the town owned because that was easier for them to negotiate directly with us rather than a private entity and then to come to the town for an application for the tower. So they were looking at town-owned property and they were looking at the coverage gap areas. So there were a couple properties that kind of fit the bill. The first one was the access was off Stornoway and ultimately they decided not to pursue that one. It was, the topography there wasn't great. I think it was there were some steep slopes issues and I think it just didn't reach, it was kind of in a little valley and it didn't reach as high as the other site that they liked, so that was not their preferred site. The one that they have moved on to is off Old Lyme Road and that's adjacent to Grafflin School. There are some concerns on that property, there's some wetlands. There's some concern whether any of that property, whether it's parkland or not. So Verizon's been out to the site 3 different times. They've done the wetlands delineation, they've done the survey. So they think they have a plan. They're getting close to being able to come and present to the public. They're not quite there yet. So Sabrina or Lino, do you wanna add anything? We had a conversation last Friday that I think went well with Verizon and we're getting close to being able to have them come and present.
No, that's good, Rob. No, that's it. I mean, basically, you know, we need to look at the site just in terms of there's some obviously some environmental things that we need to look at, but otherwise, yes, we're gonna ask them to come in and obviously give a presentation to the board at some point.
Sabrina, anything else that you wanna add?
No, I don't, you know, the area that is adjacent to Grafflin School that they're looking at, that is a very old subdivision that was constructed in 1975 or approved in 1975. It was, that section of that subdivision was developed as a conservation subdivision. So there's a lot of history in that area regarding the piece of property that they're looking to site the tower on.
And I will add that one of the possible benefits to siting the tower there, I know the town's emergency services uses the cell service as a backup for their communication. And I know they're, like everybody else, they have a coverage gap in that area, so Verizon would be able to site some of the communications equipment for emergency services on this tower as well. So that's the update we have right now. Again, we'll continue to work with, Lino is joined the conversation with Verizon, so did Sabrina, so we're continuing to work with them and hopefully get a viable project that we can bring to the town.
Well, thank you, Rob, and Sabrina and Lino. I guess one question that occurs to me is that since the problem started with the removal of the lower bands, the 3 and 4G, instead of going through all of this trouble, since people were pretty well served with the combination of 5G and then the 3G and 4G, couldn't they just put those back?
I don't have an answer to that question, Lino
I mean,
or
these are
Sabrina,
not
I don't
questions
know.
for you, really.
Yeah, I
but,
think when
these are the questions that I would ask them.
and when Verizon comes in, we've asked, I think they're gonna include an engineer. When they come in, they'll have a couple different people here to present and an engineer will be one of them, so that would be a great question for them. I imagine the 3 and 4G was just older technology as well and there may be a useful life of that equipment that may have kinda, you know, it was one of those, if the equipment is starting to fail, they're not gonna replace it with older equipment, they'll replace it with newer equipment.
Yeah, but in some ways, it was more effective. The 5G is faster, but it has lower coverage and the lower bands are slower but wider.
Yeah,
They have wider coverage. So, I mean, they seem to complement each other. It seems to be pretty short-sighted policy to remove those.
Yeah, from what I understand, it's kind of industry-wide, it's not confined to any one carrier in particular, but it's just what has happened in the industry over the last few years.
Let's see.
I would just add for anyone listening at home, I just learned this, so maybe I'm behind. But if you go on airplane mode while you have access to Wi-Fi and you don't normally have cellular service, it by default will then go to the Wi-Fi and your cellular service works exponentially better. I'm not talking about FaceTime audio, I'm talking about your actual phone. So if you did not know that, which I did not know until yesterday, flip your phone to airplane mode when you're at home if you have access to
Okay.
Wi-Fi and you can get a much better signal.
Is that right?
That's
So
a
the
great
Wi-Fi interferes somehow?
So by default, on the other way, if there is service at all, even if insignificant, your phone will go to grab that service. So you can have
Oh,
bad
okay.
service, but if you put on airplane mode, it'll flip to Wi-Fi and then you can use your regular phone over Wi-Fi.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Okay.
Tech tips with Jeremy.
I'm gonna try.
Very good.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
This message brought to you by.
Don't do drugs, kids.
I guess another thing I would ask them, and this is something I've heard from someone I know who is in this business, there are small cells that I was told that could be placed on utility poles. So that is, again, this is a question I would ask for them, so not a question for you, but I would be curious to ask them about small cells that could be put on utility poles that are also 5G but are smaller, you know, about the size of a cooler.
So Sabrina, we did look at that a couple years back, right? And what did we find when we looked at that?
We found that even though that they seem to be small up in the air, that they require very large cabinets on the ground. So there just wasn't enough space in the areas where we needed them, and they also have to pull off of a larger tower to boost their signal. So it doesn't really help us where we don't have service.
Okay, got it.
And this location would
boy,
eventually
okay.
help us on 120 if the town
Yes,
chooses to go that route.
It would, yes.
Where we all have a complete dead zone.
Right.
Heading
Right.
towards HPN.
And that's the location where we've gotten the most complaints, where people have absolutely no service.
It was, and that was part of what went into Verizon selecting the site, is that it was the area where we would be able to gain the most coverage. And definitely, yeah, down 120 there,
Right.
coverage would increase.
And what about downtown Chappaqua? Does it reach that far?
I don't think it does, we'd have to, they will bring a coverage map,
It's
that's
gotten
one of the
way
things we
worse
asked them to
there.
do.
It's gotten way worse.
And I will, when we get the coverage map, I'll compare it to the coverage analysis that was done in the wireless study, so we're guaranteed to really have a good understanding of what will be, what benefits from a coverage perspective or a congestion perspective we will have.
Right, and maybe there are smaller towers that we could put, you know, on
There
top
could
of
be, when they did
buildings.
the master plan, Sabrina, there were several different opportunities, right? For several different designs of towers and
There always is, there always is, the design of the tower is really up to the host community.
Right, I mean, there might even be a small tower we could put on top of town hall if we ever, you know, have the proper infrastructure here to do it, which would cover just the downtown.
I know they mentioned that building mounted units were part of what they could offer, but I don't know that they suggested any for our downtown area.
One of the things I wondered about was with the renovation going on at the firehouse, have we explored that as a possibility?
We have, and it is not viable for them. I know that, I think it was last summer, Vicky, when we had talked to, when we had a couple of complaints last summer, and we did get a hold of a Verizon government representative, they said that was not feasible for them, that just the location, the design did not work for them. Because I think the fire department even suggested that and offered that, but Verizon wasn't open to that.
Okay. I don't remember the reasons, maybe the coverage wouldn't be sufficient.
I think
From
so, I
that
think they
location,
could, yeah, I think
There's a
that
kind
was
of
it.
a dip
It's in a
there,
valley.
Yeah.
it is in a valley.
Right.
Yeah, so our
they aren't gonna-
topography makes it really complicated.
Sidewalks.
Yeah. Any other questions, anyone? Okay,
I just
well,
look
it
forward to
it
getting
is
a date.
regrettable that we haven't had a solution yet. I mean, it's not a town function, we can't provide cell service, so just want everyone to know that this is a private company and we can't really control them, but we are doing the very best that we can and we, you know, they are being responsive at this point. I also do want to thank the office of Senator Pete Harkam for helping us with this, because I did have to ask for assistance. There was a point at which we were getting no response, and so they helped us out, and I wanna thank them publicly for that as well. So like I said, it is regrettable that we haven't had Verizon here yet, but we are going to have them here, and again, just wanted to let the public know what we've been doing in the background, and we hope to have a solution for us soon.
And one thing, we had mentioned this before, I forgot to mention it when I was talking, is that we had heard, from some different complaints that maybe there were cell towers down and that was the reason service was poor. And the communications that I've had with the carriers that I have had, they report that there is no service down. So I talked to
There are no towers down.
there are no towers down, so I talked to a couple different carriers and then also a company that manages one of the towers in town, and they did not report or did not know of any service outages on their towers.
Right, it was a rumor that got legs, unfortunately, but people are just trying to find a reason why. All of a sudden they have no service when they did, so the explanation is in the getting rid of the lower bands. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I
So
mean, that's part of it, you have
hopefully
more phones connected now too, more devices, and that it's a kind of perfect storm.
Congestion.
Right, and also the school district had a new policy of one-to-one devices, so now all the kids have iPads and they're using them all day, which wasn't the case maybe 5 years ago.
Yep.
So that's a big change.
Yep.
Okay then, so that will conclude the discussion for now, but Rob, do you feel comfortable anticipating that they will be here in the soon, maybe?
I think so, I think.
We hesitate to say a date because
Yeah,
they haven't.
I wouldn't wanna give a date because we promised a date last time and through no fault of our own, we weren't able to deliver, so I would hesitate to give a date, but we're definitely much further down the road than we were in the past. The Verizon has assigned, they were using a third-party contractor, and in the discussions before, they put a direct kind of more senior manager at Verizon on this project itself. And we've now we've started to include their attorney as well as our attorney, so we're getting somewhere with it now.
Yeah, and again, the timing is also unfortunate because I wanted them to come when people were here.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
now we're headed into the summer. And so I'm hopeful they can come at our next meeting on June 24th because people will still be here, but if it's past that,
Yep,
then it'll
I
be
agree.
July and August and nobody's here. So I hate to wait, but sometimes it's better to do something well than to do it quickly. And we've been waiting a long time, so I would even suggest if there's talking July, August, that we postpone it until September.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, alright then. So let's move on unless anyone has any last thoughts. Okay. Okay, Rob, so let's go over the administrative items.
Good night, folks.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you,
Good
Sabrina.
night,
Good
Sabrina,
night.
thank you. We have a retroactive payment of claims from the 30th. Jeremy, we've got another vehicle we sold, a 2009 Ford Focus, $1,400,
Whoa.
adding to the coffers.
14 we didn't have before, ladies and gentlemen.
That is true.
Every time counts.
We are looking for authorization to purchase anthracite and sand filter media. That's part of the water treatment process at the Millwood Water Treatment Plant.
$1,400 worth?
$29,800. So no, not $1,400. We have an authorization to purchase a Polar Tech AC machine down at the DPW repair shop. This isn't the actual cooling unit for the building. This is to repair and refresh air conditioning units in the vehicles that we have. Cost of that is $11,464. We have the authorization to approve change orders number 1 and 2. That's for weatherproofing and weatherproofing for the central garage and the DPW administration office roof restoration, $2,200 and $1,662 respectively. We have the authorization to approve NCCMC's web services contract addendum. We do this each year as part of NCCMC's contract. There are some fees that they pay and then pass the cost through to the town. These can include Zoom fees for the year and some of the other software fees for what they do for the e-alert system, et cetera. So as those prices change, the addendum in NCCMC's contract changes. That's what we're approving here. We have the two tax cert proceedings that we heard from before, Millwood Realty and Gruber. The board heard about 2 months ago, we approved CVAC's LoSAP service reporting for the year. This is another step in the process, authorizing I think the supervisor to sign the form. So this is the final step. Once this is approved and completed, CVAC LoSAP service reporting for the year will be complete. We have the authorization to enter into the contract with Wood Hollow Contracting for the EV charging units. This is the rip and replace project, so we're replacing some older units that are not working and we're expanding the coverage in some locations. Some at the Chappaqua train station, at the Allen Place parking lot, at Gedney Park, and at Amsterdam, I think are all the locations these units are gonna be placed. The total cost of this is $117,000. This is fully covered by the NYSERDA grant that we received. We have a banner request for William Ravis. We do have the authorization to approve the SRO agreement with Chappaqua Central School District. That's a 3-year agreement. The school board approved that at their meeting last week. We have an authorization to accept a cash bond agreement with WCE Real Estate Holdings for in the amount of $1,500. We have the authorization to renew the annual service agreement with iWork Systems for the Department of Public Works. That is their software that tracks their work orders. And finally, we have the authorization to award the DPW purchase and installation of highway maintenance materials. That is the road paving contract for this year.
Okay, thank you, Rob. I just wanted to just specify that the SRO is for the same number of SROs that we have contracted out for the past few years, the one at the high school and the two floating between the middle schools and the
Correct.
elementary schools.
In the prior year, we had two separate contracts because we had the officer in the high school first and then the two other officers came after and were under separate contract. This combines the three officers
Right,
into
for the
one
first time,
contract.
that's right. Okay, thank you. Now may I have a motion to adjourn the work session and open the town board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are now at our town board meeting. Let's see, Rob, do you have any announcements, or Christina?
I'm gonna turn it to Christina and she
Okay.
can give maybe one last parking reminder before the
June 15th.
due date.
Yes, so our new parking year starts on Monday. We ask if you have not already applied for your parking permits, please come in or mail them, go online. All parking permits will expire, merchants, metered, and the resident standard, and non-residents. So please come in, we'll get you up online right away. We will be out there enforcing immediately on June 16th, just per usual, there's no grace period, so please come on in. We've had the renewals open for about 6 weeks now, so really, just come on in, we're happy to help you out, we'll make copies, just come in with a checkbook and your paperwork.
Okay, and this is the same parking year that the town has had
Yes.
Yes.
long term, right?
Yes.
So no one can say that they're not aware
Yes,
anymore.
this is for, there's during COVID, we shifted the year, we slid it a little bit, but we're returning to the dates that have been long-standing, probably for 15-20 years at least. And notification has gone out directly to the users, push notifications to the app, emails have gone out. Thank you for including it in the weekly newsletter. It's been on 2 electronic signs, it's on the triangle signs, it's been on yard signs.
Yes, so
The
we've done a
information's
lot, a
out
lot
there.
of advertising, so I hope everyone gets the message and I hope no one gets a ticket, and if they do, that's not our fault.
Yes, please come on.
Please pay promptly.
Okay, so I just wanna say that we had a really wonderful activity-filled weekend last weekend. We had our Saturday was especially busy. Of course, we had the farmers market, there was the strawberry festival, there was a baseball game, and for the town, we had our pride flag raising on Saturday, June 7th. And that was a lovely ceremony. I wanna thank the LGBTQ committee. And we also, I wanna thank Chris Burdick, Assemblyman Chris Burdick, and the Westchester Legislator Chair Vedat Gashi for their attendance. And so that was a wonderful ceremony, and we also had in the wee hours of Sunday morning the Into the Light Sunrise Walk for Mental Resilience, sponsored by the Newcastle Committee for Mental Resilience. It was a very moving time again. We started the walk in the darkness and it ended in the light, and we had some very very good information that was shared by a lot of speakers. Jen spoke and as a town board council person and as liaison to the committee, but also in her professional capacity. And we had the Boys and Girls Club come and give important information on mental health awareness and resources, and the school district, Christine Ackerman, the superintendent, spoke as well. So it was
And Uma Sharma from Horace Greeley High School, who's
yes.
the chair of the Mental Awareness Club.
Yes, that's right, and there were a lot of partners in this year. We had, the Pleasantville's Break the Hold was a partner, the school district partners. We had two school clubs, the Students Against Destructive Decision. There was a
Newcastle
Students-
United for Youth.
Newcastle United for Youth, there was the Student for Mental Wellness Club, the Greeley varsity football team
Yeah, the
was there,
football
which
team
was
was
really
there.
wonderful, and of course, the Chappaqua PTA and the Chappaqua Library sponsored it as well. So a lot of partners this year and it's growing, and I really encourage everyone to do it. I'm not a morning person, and if I could do it, you can do it too. I got there at 4:15 a.m. And it's timed pretty well. We did get out at 6 and it was really moving and special. So I recommend it and consider participating next year. Let's see. Also, I want to highlight that we're going to have a mural reveal next Saturday. The town board has been talking about having public art and murals for a very long time. Jeremy, you were on the board when it was first discussed. And I'm glad you started that discussion because I think it takes time for things to develop. And so you had you had artists that you were considering at the time, and these were big projects, and it gets hard to follow through. Things happen, COVID, things get in the way. But we did pursue it, so I wanna thank you and that prior board for starting that conversation. And I also wanna thank Jen for putting together an amazing arts and culture committee, because these are really active people who have made this happen. And it took a while, it took a while to find the artists, to develop the contracts, and I just want people to know that when something like this happens, there's a lot of work that goes on in the background. So I wanna thank the committee members, Joan Chilkraut, the chair, Laurie Hoffman, Roberta Lasky, Mark Lowenstein, Jessica Meyerowitz, Lisa Nisman, Carolyn Simpson, and Rachel Samansky. They really did a lot of work to make this happen. So we're going to have a Bridge Gallery reveal celebration this Saturday, June 14th, from 11:30 to 1 p.m. At Allen Place under the Quaker Road Bridge, and you'll get to the murals will be revealed, and you'll get to meet the artists and have a little celebration. So I hope everyone comes to look at all this wonderful artwork. And the theme, I won't give it away, but the theme is community. So I like the way this project developed, and it's really about community because the artists have a connection to the community. So just wanted to let everyone know about that. And that's all I have for now. So let's see. Rob, I'll turn it over to you if there is a town administrator's report.
Sure, just a couple items. Anybody that's here in the building may have realized our talented building staff, they're working on the renovation of the men's room upstairs. That is the fifth of 5 bathrooms that they've renovated. They do all that work in-house. I think in the past year we've repainted the walls, I think everyone's noticed, so we're kind of doing some of the minor improvements piecemeal. And the bathroom renovation upstairs is one of them. I just wanted a couple announcements for the building. So our summer hours have begun. I may have mentioned that before, but I'll just reiterate. Summer hours, normal hours Monday through Thursday, but on Friday we open normal time at 8:45, but close the building at 3:15 during the summer. And I also point out that next Thursday, June 19th, the building is closed for Juneteenth. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Rob. And our next item of order is a Pride Month proclamation. June is Pride Month, and we want to declare that it is Pride Month 2025 in the town of Newcastle. So we have the proclamation here, and I'm going to ask Jen Klein to read it.
So this is the Pride Month proclamation. I move to adopt the following resolution. Whereas the town of Newcastle, New York upholds the value and dignity of each person and champions the rights, freedom, and equality of all individuals and families. And whereas all are welcome in the town of Newcastle to live, work, play, and deserve to feel a sense of belonging, inclusion, and equality, and a place to call home where they are safe, happy, and supported by friends and neighbors. And whereas the town denounces prejudice and unfair discrimination based on age, gender, identity, gender expression, race, color, ethnicity, religion, marital status, national origin, sexual orientation, ability, socioeconomic status, or physical attributes as an affront to our fundamental principles. And whereas Pride Month commemorates the Stonewall Uprising in New York City, which took place in June of 1969, when lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer plus, LGBTQ+, and allied friends took a stand for human rights and dignity and fought against police harassment and discriminatory laws that have since been declared unconstitutional. And whereas LGBTQ+ people have fought for equal treatment, dignity, and respect and have achieved significant milestones, ensuring that future generations of LGBTQ+ people will enjoy a more equal and just society. And whereas LGBTQ+ people still face disparities in employment, healthcare, education, housing, and many other areas central to the pursuit of happiness in the United States. And whereas the town of Newcastle recognizes the valuable cultural, civic, and economic contributions of the LGBTQ+ community, which strengthen our social welfare. And whereas it is imperative that young people in our community, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, feel valued, safe, empowered, and supported by their peers and community leaders. And whereas despite being marginalized, LGBTQ+ people continue to celebrate authenticity, acceptance, and whereas the town of Newcastle reaffirms its commitment to standing in solidarity with LGBTQ+ individuals and families in their ongoing struggle against discrimination and injustice. Now therefore be it resolved that the members of this town declare the month of June 2025 as LGBTQ+ Pride Month in the town of Newcastle and urge residents to recognize the contributions made by members of the LGBTQ+ community and to actively promote the principles of equality, liberty, and justice.
Okay, thank you, Jen. So we don't really have to vote. This is just a proclamation that
It's just a proclamation, but it sounded like you asked for a motion, but if you
it was worded that way, but I think we can skip over that. We're just issuing a proclamation as we usually do, and we don't usually vote on it. So okay, thank you very much. And Jeremy, we also have, I just wanna also declare that this is Gun Violence Awareness Month 2025 in the town of Newcastle. And I'm gonna ask Deputy Supervisor Jeremy Salan to read it. You could skip over the resolution language.
Understood. All right. Whereas every day dozens of Americans are killed by gun violence, leaving countless friends, family members, and loved ones heartbroken and traumatized, and entire communities living in fear of experiencing or witnessing gun violence. And Whereas Americans are 25 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other developed countries. And whereas gun violence has serious implications for victims, survivors, and their communities and includes but is not limited to gun suicides, gun homicides, domestic violence involving a firearm, officer-involved shootings, and unintentional shootings. And whereas cities and towns across the nation, including the town of Newcastle, New York, are working to end senseless gun violence. And whereas protecting public safety in the communities we serve is the town board's highest responsibility. And whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories. And whereas National Gun Violence Awareness Day is commemorated on the first Friday of June this year, on June 6th, which honors the memory of Hadia Pendleton, who at the age of 15 in 2013 was tragically shot and killed in broad daylight, 1 week after performing at President Obama's second inauguration. Hadia's friends asked people to wear orange, a symbol of human life, in remembrance of all victims and survivors of gun violence. And whereas throughout the entire month of June, nationally recognized as Gun Violence Awareness Month, we're asked to renew our commitment to end gun violence, vowing to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encouraging responsible gun ownership to help keep our children, families, and communities safe. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the members of the town board of the town of Newcastle do hereby proclaim the month of June 2025 as Gun Violence Awareness Month in the town of Newcastle and urge residents to support their community's efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence to foster a secure environment for all.
Okay, thank you very much. All right then. Okay, now we've reached the public comment period. I would like to ask anyone in the audience who has a public comment to please come to the microphone and identify yourself and state where you live. Anyone for public comment today? Oh, okay, let's see if there's anyone online.
No hands are raised online.
No hands are raised online, so, okay, so then we will move on. What's next on the agenda? Okay, Rob, do you wanna go over the consent agenda?
Sure. Okay, consent agenda is as follows. We have the authorization to accept the vehicle auction results for DPW. We have the authorization to purchase anthracite and sand filter media at the Millwood Water Treatment Plant. The authorization to purchase the Polartec YF air conditioning machine at DPW. The authorization to approve change orders number 1 and 2 with weatherproofing technologies through the DPW Administration Office and Central Garage Roof Restoration Project. We have the authorization to approve NCCMC's full web services contract addendum for 2025. We have the authorization to settle years 2020 through 2024 tax certiorari proceedings for Millwood Realty Incorporated. Authorization to settle the years 2022 to 2024 tax certiorari proceedings for Gruber. We have the authorization to complete the 2024 sponsor form for CVAC LoSAP. The authorization to enter into contract with Wood Hollow Contracting LLC for EV charging units. The authorization to approve the banner request for William Ravis. Authorization to approve the SRO agreement with Chappaqua Central School District. The authorization to accept the cash bond agreement for WCE Real Estate Holdings. And the authorization to renew the annual service agreement with iWork Systems for DPW.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Okay, let's start with the resolutions. Holly, do you wanna start
Sure.
off?
I move to adopt items 1 through 13 as listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to retroactively approve the payment of claims in the amount of $753,852.48 listed on the summary AP check register and detail voucher detail report, both dated May 30th, 2025. Checks were printed and distributed to each claimant listed on Friday, May 30th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move to authorize the hiring of Dylan Ruckstull for the position of Recreation Assistant within the Recreation and Parks Department at the annual salary of $52,528.14 effective June 27th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to authorize the hiring of Anthony Ibarra and Beto Colque for the position of seasonal parks laborer within the Recreation and Parks Department at the hourly rate of $20 per hour, effective June 23rd, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to authorize the hiring of the following individuals listed below to serve as recreation attendants within the Recreation and Parks Department at the corresponding rates as indicated below, effective June 30th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move to authorize the hiring of Michael Ugarte, apologies if I misspoke, for the position of the part-time parking enforcement officer within the police department at the hourly rate of $25 per hour, effective June 16th of this year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to authorize the payment of the Millwood Water Treatment Plant 2025 Mike Martis Summer Intern, Mina Nespoli, for the complete duration of her internship retroactively from May 19th, 2025 to August 22nd, 2025, at which Viola will reimburse the town 20 hours a week for the length of her internship.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to authorize the award of bids for each individual item to the lowest responsible bidders in each item under the DPW 2025-02 purchase and installation of highway maintenance materials bid for a 1-year period through April 30th, 2026, as shown as per the attached spreadsheet.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to, oh, hang on a second.
I just,
Rob?
Lauren, did we have a resolution for the Wood Hollow contracting for the EV charging units? Weren't we going to establish the capital project for that this evening?
Yes, I thought it was on the consent agenda.
That's the well, we do have an authorization to enter into
Into
contract,
contract.
but you're
Not
talking
the
about
capital.
establishing.
The capital project as
Oh,
well
okay,
as that.
okay.
Can you just create one for us?
Right.
Okay.
I encompass it all in one.
Okay, I didn't read it that way, so is that okay, Lino, that we establish the capital project? Okay, I just wanted to confirm that, that was supposed to be all in one resolution, so
Okay, so
as long as
should we vote on that in concept at this
Well,
point?
there's the as written, you can just say you wanna go back and just amend the resolution to include the capital, that's what I would do.
to include the establishment of the capital project for that.
Okay, so do I have to
So I
move,
move-
do I have to move to retract?
No, just
The
move
first-
to, you just moving to amend that motion, right, just make a new motion, amending that prior motion to add the capital to
Why
that.
don't you do it, Lino, and I'll just,
Sure. Do you have it, Robert, in front of you or no?
It's part of the consent agenda,
So it's just the title,
it's
right? We
just,
didn't
right,
list it.
it's just enter into contract with Wood Hollow Contract.
And
It's number
establishing.
9.
Yeah,
And
yeah, number 9, establishing the capital. That's all.
so moved.
Second.
Well, we should say exactly what we're doing as we're making.
Establish a capital project for the contract, for Wood Hollow contracting for the EV charging units.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for catching.
Good catch, thanks. Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned, thank you very much.
Thank you.